Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Raha West. I have quite a few affiliations. One of it is I'm the clinical lead for LTRN fellowship for the Thames Valley and South Midland Clinical Research Network. I'm also an anesthetist and clinical scientist at Imperial College London. I'm funded by NIHR. And today I'm going to tell you a story. We know how important research culture is, that it is crucial at improving patient outcome and advancing our healthcare. But the key word here is collaborative work. And I'm going to tell you my personal experience. It is an extreme situation, how I built an army during the stress and chaos of the pandemic. But I feel there is much to learn from my story for you to take home into your own department or unit. So do take notes, because at the end, we're going to summarize my experience together. Yes, we talk about barriers a lot, but at embedding research culture. But for me, the barrier was that, and also COVID, the pandemic in April 2020. COVID what? Am I going to die if I talk to COVID patients? There's so much uncertainty about it. And I work at a small district general hospital, and the trial that I'm talking about is recovery trial. It is a drug trial with multi-arm adaptive platform design. Could be complicated, and it was very fast-paced. And that, on top of, if I look everywhere, people were stressed. Everyone was stretched beyond their capacity, because patients with COVID were flooding in, and quite a lot of them also died. And I was working in intensive care. I'm an intensive care doctor, and I felt helpless because what I know about saving patients almost didn't quite apply in the beginning of COVID, because I don't know how to make them better. So this is where I felt like recovery trial was a saving grace for me, because we had an opportunity here to find a treatment that could save life. So we said, yes, let's do recovery trial. You can see there, that's not far-fetched. That is what's happening during COVID in intensive care, very chaotic, very stressed, no time for anything else, let alone, doing research. So day one, we have one PI, me, and one research nurse. And we thought, oh, can we actually do this? Because how are we going to approach clinicians? How are we going to approach nurses? How are we going to approach the ward? Is people going to be engaged with us? Because people are just so much busier than they normally are. But then I remember telling my research nurse, and my manager, Nicholas, here, this, Nicholas, I said to Judith, it's okay, Judith, there's no target, so you're not going to be penalized. As long as we recruit one patient, we'll be okay. We're not going to be in the red. I remember saying that. So, whatever happens, happens. But I did dream big, because not so much to embed the research culture, but also I wanted to find treatment that could save my patient. So I realized very early on, myself and Judith, the two of us, it's not going to do it. It's not enough. So I need to think outside the box. I need to build an army. But how do I build an army? It's Alexa. Then now you probably go and chat GPT, AI. In fact, I just did it this morning. How do I build an army? And the AI pretty much said what I wrote there. I realized to build a good research army, you need to have a well-informed leader. So as a leader, as a PI, I need to know everything there is to know about the trials, because my team will rely on it. And I also need to be engaged. And also enthusiasm, because if you are enthusiastic about something, it rubs on other people. With my team, because they see how important this is for me, and they also thought, oh wow, she's very enthusiastic about it, maybe we should as well. So it does rub out. So enthusiasm goes a very long way. And you also have to be present, because I remember very early on, the CEO of the trust said, Raha, you're everywhere. I said, well, I'm everywhere because my teams are also everywhere, so I need to be there for them. And if you want your team to follow you, you have to be leading them, like, you know, duck with the mother duck. You know, you have to be visible. And because not only that, as a PI, you need to provide an oversight over everything, especially for a setting for drug trial. And this is a multi-arm, fast-moving adaptive platform trial. You need to provide an extreme oversight across what's going on. And it goes without saying, communication. Talk to your team. And the thing about communication, it works both ways, not just you talking. They need to listen and talk back. It has to be a two-way process. And finally, you need to appreciate, and I realize I need to appreciate my team because you're working together, and little things like, thank you very much for what you did today, or you did very well today. Thank you so much for, you know, for even if they can't process, so thank you so much for your effort. It does goes a long way because when your team feel appreciated, it motivates them to do more. And lastly, think outside the box. Like, I'll talk more about who are in my army, and you can see how I did think outside the box. It's not just your manager or the doctors or the nurses on the ward. It does extend beyond that. So this is this 5 mantra that I keep repeating to myself about how I'm going to build my army and how I'm going to maintain them. Talk to everyone, involve everyone, train everyone, because you need to look after your team. I mean, you can't just say, come and join a recovery trial team at Bucks Healthcare, but don't care about whether they know what it is or they know what to do. You have to be vigilant of the individuals, so train them. Most importantly, I know this has been mentioned before by previous speaker, try to make it easy for everyone, because this is an extreme, my example is an extreme situation during the pandemic where everybody is already busy, everybody was already stretched beyond their means. And finally, reward everyone. Like I said, this is not a bribe, but a simple, you know, gesture, thank you, which I will talk more about in the next slide. Sorry. Yes, make it easy for everyone. Apart from, you know, communicating to them with the trial that we were doing, like I said, it was fast-paced. A year later, we were on the 17th substantial amendment, and there seems to be amendment every couple of weeks. So your team, I mean, they need to be with you, knowing what's going on. So what I did was, because I thought, you know, not with recovery trial, but usually, you know, protocols about 50 pages long. That's quite standard. Again, not with recovery trial, but generally, protocols about 50 pages long. And then you have the PRS, and then you have the consent form, and then you have some other studies, paperwork or information. So I thought that's just too much for people to read. So I thought I need to have like a short guide, like ideally A4 paper, but I did 2 A4 paper of the salient point, not to replace the protocol or anything, but just for people to quickly refer to when they go to the ward to approach patient. Also, the names of the important people they can contact with. As you can see there, it was a multi-team study involving intensive care, infectious disease team, pediatrics, obstetrics. So it was a big army. But having all that, you know, information for the team is important because, again, drug trials, 6 drugs at the platform at a time. So they need to know who the clinical trial pharmacist is, how to contact them. And I put transfusion stuff there because we were involved in plasma. Again, we were involved with the aseptic unit. Where is the aseptic unit? Is it at your site? It wasn't, it was a different site. How is it going to get there? And you know, other key information like when we were recruiting, and then on the next page, what the drugs are. So it's just a quick guide for my team to quickly look. And if they want more answer, they can either talk to me or refer to the protocol. So make it easy for everyone. And then we go on, reward everyone. So to stimulate some competitive streak between my team, first of all, most people like certificate, and especially clinicians, they like to win. So I did a bit of competition where, you know, you will get a recruiter of the week, very fancy, signed by the PI, signed by the director of RNI. if you recruit the most patient that week. So that was enroll every week. It works very well because, as I said, people like certificate. But I didn't just reward the recruiter of the week, the highest recruiter of the week. I also have another certificate, but a most engaged person of the week, because just because somebody couldn't recruit as much as you doesn't mean they didn't put as much effort. So I also acknowledge another person who are most engaged that week. So that did boost up recruitment quite a lot. And then any opportunity I have, I will say thank you to everyone that has been involved with me, everyone that has supported me. And things like at Christmas, boxes of chocolates for the wards goes a long way. And there's a picture of the goose I cooked in Christmas 2020, because it was COVID, a large goose for just my husband and I. Of course, there's a lot of leftover. So what I did is, because quite a lot of my team were working during Christmas, so I packed quite a few boxes of goose with a little bit of potatoes and a little bit of gravy and brought to the hospital, because otherwise it was going to be a waste. We can't possibly have goose curry for a week because I already have planned for Boxing Day, you see. So it does go so long way. Like, again, I want to stress that this is not bribery. This is just me being thoughtful and looking after my team, and it pays off. If you are enthusiastic, can't stress this enough, your team will be too. Especially if you're passionate, it will rub on them. But if they can't get to you, if you're not approachable, if they can't find you, you're not going to see them. They're not going to be bothered because they can't find you. So I have one of the principles I have in life is I always try to reply to my email within 24 hours, because I believe other people have jobs to do. And if they rely on me replying, I should at least honor that. I said try, not always achieve that. But, so if you don't seem approachable, your team will hide from you as well. So this is just, our little glory. We did extremely well as a result of the army, and we recruited 21 patients at 6 days following green light. And then the second week, we were up to 70 patients. And in the first pandemic, rather wave of the pandemic, we were 7th highest recruiter in the world out of 160 NHS trusts. At one point, we were recruiting more than OUH. I just at one point. Okay, so this talk today is about building relationship with your manager. So what about your manager? Where does your manager coming into all of this? So with me, I include my manager is a part of my team. I include manager in my team. Again, I talk to them, I involve them, I train them. But by that I mean I talk to them about the trial, why I'm doing this, what patients I'm looking at. I make it easy for them. I give them the guide, and I reward them. As you can see in the previous slide, the thank you involved to all the managers. I did 2 COVID trials. So these are the people that's in my recovery trial. These are the army that's in my recovery trial. When I talk about things outside the box, it wasn't just the manager, clinician, nurses, pharmacists. I also approached the medical school. I said, I need few medical students to be in my team for recovery trial. And of course, you have to ask. You can't just, you have to ask the people at medical school. So I have a couple of medical students, and they loved it, because I find medical students are often overlooked. They want to learn about research, but they don't always get the opportunity to do that. So they learned a lot, and they really enjoyed it. And other people like Porter was a part of my team. I went to the Porter and said, this very important study. Why? Because we collect research blood for the trial. Who's going to bring that blood to the lab? Who's going to bring the drugs to the ward? Porter. So if you include them in your team, as soon as we've got, and yes, I'm here, they're already there. You don't even have to say anything. Like the nurses, as soon as they see us come to the ward, they have already got a set of notes. In fact, they extend beyond that. On the board, they've got like the list of patients on the wards. They put like green star of the patient that they think we might be able to, we might be interested in. Why? Because we talk to them, we reward them, we train them, we involve them. So that's why it was. So that's why Army for Recovery Trial. And then another trial I did, which is collecting, is to do with body odor and COVID to see whether the dogs can actually smell COVID. But we recruited the staff. So I approached the CEO of the trust and talked to him about the trial, and he was recruited. The head of nursing was recruited, and then we tweet about it, and then all the stuff like, oh, you know, if they were in the trial, maybe we should as well. So as a result, we were, so we start the first week we were like fifth in the country, and then the second week until the trial's end, we were undefeated highest recruiter for NHS hospital in the UK. Now, we talk about maintaining momentum. As energetic and enthusiastic as I am, I do get tired. It's not so much because I'm so enthusiastic about research, but being a doctor, an intensive care doctor at the front line during COVID is extremely tiring. I see you nodding, you know what I'm talking about. So, you know, how do you keep that momentum, or how do you keep momentum in general? So during the first wave, the level of engagement was high, not just from me, but for the rest of my team. And then around November, when the cases were slightly, you know, declining, we heard about the potential second waves coming in January. But at that point, we are all tired. Most of us, some of us are, you know, have very low morale because we're just so busy during the pandemic, and we just can't face another peak. And I saw the recruitment rate declining. And also, because my team, majority of my teams are junior doctors, by that time they left because they rotate. So I have to build another one, and the new one comes, they already experienced the pandemic somewhere else, and they're just too tired, you know. So what do we do? I know we talk about quality improvement, perhaps separate from research, but it doesn't have to be. So before, in my previous life, I was a quality improvement lead for the Royal College of Anaesthetists for the region. Because I thought, why can't we do a quality improvement project for this research? Because it's the same process, you know, with the plan, do, study, and act. So what we did was, so we review what we're doing right now, and then we look at what opportunity out there to change our strategy. And thankfully, around the same time, the NIHR enrolled the associate PI scheme, and recovery trial was one of the few first trial that pilots the scheme. So I jumped at that, you know, at that. You only allow one associate PI per trial, but I said I need two because I'm recruiting in two very different areas. Because the COVID patient, they either go to intensive care or the COVID ward. So I need two. So I was given two, thankfully. And also I looked at how can we support the research nurses further, because at this point, because this is a drug trial, the nurses wasn't consenting, which is, you know, quite normal for CTIM. But when I spoke to the sponsor, they said, well, nurses can consent as well. So, but then we have to provide them training and reassurance because although they can consent, they can't confirm eligibility. So what I did, I designed another form that have, you know, all the eligibility criteria, and they have to go to a clinician, any clinician, to just confirm that before they approach the patient, to make it easier for them. So we then implement changes, and we compare pre and post changes. And what we found was the initiative that we did improve team cohesion and communication, and it does increase the experience of the team, because the part of the QI was a lot more teaching and coaching, and we did increase recruitment. On a personal impact, I did what I did because I want to help my patient, because I want the chance to do more, but I also saw an opportunity for wider research engagement among the junior doctors, non-doctors, the nurses, the porter, the phlebotomist. You know, why shouldn't they be involved in research? So I saw that opportunity and I grabbed it. And I think the way we run research during COVID should be a benchmark for future clinical trials. And also, I didn't do what I did for accolades, but it was also nice to be recognized. I didn't even know there's a such thing as a CEO award, but apparently they did it for the first time that time, so I was very grateful for that. So in summary, this is where you come in. So that was my experience in an extreme situation, but there's a lot to learn from that you can then apply to your individual situation. Appreciate everyone, make it easy for everyone. Point number 2, as a manager, what can you do? It's pretty much the same thing. And most importantly is, I'm looking at Nicola, I mean, you have to have a good rapport with your manager. You have to be at sync and the same level, isn't it, Nicola? You know, because, and find a way to be that. Summary point number 3, what are the barriers you might face? And the point number 4, finally, what are the facilitators to develop research culture? Oh, what I didn't mention was another thing I do, because I did so much, I forgot. Patients and member of the public engagement. So what we did was we approach people as they come into the door. So we involved A&E as well. We start giving them the information sheet then for them to think about it before they even come to hospital. And I did a lot of other, I'm almost going to finish, a lot of other public engagement as well. I went on the local radio, I'll talk about the recovery trial, talk about the other trial, how important it is to sort of advertise it to the county, what we're doing. I was also in the BBC South, and also a year later, around the time when the momentum was slightly lost among the healthcare professional, and also perhaps members of the public. So via the Thames Valley CRN, I did a national webinar of basically, the webinar was just me as a doctor talking to one of my patients who survived COVID and was in the trial. She received dexamethasone, the drugs that found beneficial after 100 days of the trial open. And at Bucks, we recruit a lot to that. And we just had an honest conversation between a doctor and a patient of our experience of the trial, of engaging in research, of COVID, and it was very well received because it was honest